Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell down the street at the corner of Route 9 and 495. But this is not about my day job. This is about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've seen my presentations, you know that their goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's Westborough, that means right here, not in Marlborough where I live, not where their kids live. No, they want to be home. So the question is, who are the people you need to know? What are the programs you need to know about? Just stay right here. And I've got this wonderful co-host, Shelby Marshall, whom everybody knows, because she always finds these great guests. We've had this guest be on before. And as we were talking earlier, it's so great to be talking not about COVID. So we're going to take some time to really be talking about Frank and Mary and you and your future right here in Westborough. So Shelby, whom do we have today?
Hi, good morning, Arthur. Great to see you again, as always. So today's guest is Lester Hensley. Lester is no stranger to certainly Frank and Mary, but to the broader community. He's served in a number of roles on boards and committees in the past. And he's on today to talk to us about the master plan, which if we reflect back, I think he was our guest last June or December.
May, yeah.
Right, and then it was just kicking off. We were just talking about what it is. We hadn't had our public meeting yet. And unfortunately, our town planners couldn't join us today, Jim Robbins. He had another commitment. So, did want to acknowledge that he attempted to come, but couldn't for other reasons. But Lester's here to talk to us about what's going on with the master plan, because while we've all been sort of behind the scenes and running our meetings, so has the master plan. That committee and subcommittees, they've been meeting. So Lester, give us an update. Where are things at?
Well, thanks very much, Arthur and Shelby. It's great to be back with you and your audience on Frank and Mary. I think that the last time I was with you was May last year, and it was right. We were all just coming to grips with COVID and the pandemic and what that meant, and the Master Plan Advisory Committee had taken a decision to take a hiatus over the summer to allow the town officials and everybody to sort of adapt to this new way of life. I think that was a good decision. We reconvened in September and got the committee back together, of course, on Zoom, and began the work of moving from through the stages of the master plan, right? So we were in the explores. We've moved into the explores phase from the reflects phase, and in the reflects phase, the community was reflecting on what is Westborough and what makes it great, and sort of establishing a baseline of who we are as a community. And then as we moved in September into the explores phase, the Master Plan Advisory Committee began to meet in subcommittees for each of the areas of the master plan, and begin to explore possible goals for how we will move the community forward, and then specific actions as well. So
Lester, let me, just for Frank and Mary, if they missed our great episode with you earlier, just very quickly, what is a master plan, and what are the areas of focus within our master plan?
Okay, so a master plan is a forward-looking document that expresses intentions and specific goals and actions for a community to take that will shape the community for at least 10 to 15 years into the future. So it's a comprehensive document that looks at all of the areas that touch our lives in town, everything from land use to public facilities to public health to economic development to natural, historical, and cultural resources, and explores where we are now, where we want to be, and how to harmonize the often conflicting interests of those different areas that define a community.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but transportation, very much part of that, and housing as well. And a lot of that is tied into the economic aspect of kind of the discussions.
Absolutely. And housing and transportation are defined chapters in the master plan as well. Thank you for completing my memory on them. We can do this as a team.
That's right.
So there are actually 9 chapters in the master plan that will govern all of these different areas.
So you were saying, so we've sort of reflected, and subcommittees have been meeting based on those reflections, the community reflections, and the work with a consultant, and now we're in the explore phase.
Right. And the product of the explores phase is a draft vision statement for the master plan. So this has been through several iterations at the committee and subcommittee levels, and the preparation of draft goals for each of the chapters and each of the areas. And I keep emphasizing draft, because that's what they are. They are yet to be vetted by the members of the community, which brings us to the next scheduled public hearing, which the public meeting will be on February 18th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. and it will be held digitally. So this is quite a bit different than the first one that we held right before the pandemic hit, and we held that, in the cafeteria at the high school, and we were in person for that. But what we expect to happen at this public meeting is that the draft vision statement, the draft goals, and the draft actions will be shared with the community, and we will seek community input into those. Do those resonate? Do they capture what individuals believe are appropriate goals? Are we missing a goal? Should we recraft these draft vision statement and goals in a different way? And we've planned some creative ways within Zoom to help explore in that process.
Because that's great to hear, because the the first public meeting that we had was very interactive, and do you recall, I want to say at least 100 people attended.
Yeah, it was about 110, I think, was
Yep.
the final count. And so for folks who were there, you can call back and remember what that felt like. And for those who weren't, I can describe it. But, we gathered in the cafeteria at the high school around round tables. We were divided into groups. There were members from the Master Plan Advisory Committee at each table to act as facilitators. We appointed somebody at the table to be a recorder, so essentially to take the notes and capture the thoughts of the participants. And then we reported out to the large group some of those findings, but captured all of the findings that were in that meeting, scribbled onto flip charts and sticky notes and physically captured that way. And all of that feedback was then aggregated by the consultant and turned into the baseline chapters or the baseline drafts for the subcommittee. So if you can have that vision in your head, and now imagine how we do that in a digital Zoom environment. And
Fingers crossed, right?
Fingers crossed. Well, we've actually had a practice. So
Okay.
the most recent meeting on January 27th of the Master Plan Advisory Committee had a fantastic turnout. So I think we had almost 25 or 30 of people there. And what Zoom actually has a way for a facilitator to put you into groups and break you out into small groups. And so the facilitator for the February 18th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. public meeting, regardless of the number, and we hope it's enormous. We're ready for 150 people to join us. Will be randomly assigned to at an appropriate point in the meeting to a breakout session, and we hope that each resident will get an opportunity to go into several breakout sessions on different topics within the master plan. And so much like we're meeting now, we have the 3 windows here. What will happen is a little message will pop up on the screen that says you are being assigned to group number 8. Click here to join, and you'll click. the big meeting will disappear and the screen will reemerge, and you'll be in a room with hopefully 5 or 10 other Westborough residents and a facilitator and a recorder, and they will have a topic for you to discuss. You'll be presented with a goal, a draft goal. You'll discuss that goal. You'll give feedback. You'll give affirmation if it feels good to you. You'll give criticism if something's missing. That will be captured in the recording of the notes from the group. And then when the time is up for that breakout session, that small group, another message will pop up and says will be rejoining the whole group in 60 seconds, and that will count down, and you'll click leave, and then boom, you'll come back into the big group. So you'll see those 150 faces there. And so that will be repeated. And so if you can make the mental model analogy to the cafeteria, right? We're going to just do that on your screen.
Yep.
So hopefully folks who need a little bit of help and guidance can buddy up with somebody that will help them through the process. You could certainly have 2 people sitting in front of a laptop or a camera and participating together. So we would encourage folks to do that.
So given that you'll have a number of different breakout rooms going on at the same time, I would imagine it won't be something that can be actually filmed, right? Because you'd have all these different sessions. But will the larger sessions somehow be filmed, sort of the discussions?
So yes, actually the large session, of course, will be entirely filmed and be available for viewing afterwards. What is possible is that the facilitator, so our consultant VHB will be the facilitator of the entire meeting. They can actually go and drop into rooms. And so several of us, just like we did in person, will be floaters. So we'll be floating around and dropping into discussions. And one of those floaters will be Westborough TV. So we will be able to bring Westborough TV along with us to drop in on a group and record a portion of what's going on in that discussion.
Right.
So we will catch snippets of each group, we hope, and what we don't catch on camera, we will be reporting out as we did in person. You know, we didn't get to hear everything that was written down even in person. That would have taken days.
Right.
So it's very much replicating what happened, but in the Zoom environment.
Right.
To the point even that you may recall, if you attended the in-person session, we did a poll at the beginning of the session. Everybody was handed a little voting clicker, and that established who was in the room, what was the demographic, what was the age group, how long have you been in Westborough, right? So that type of poll will be used as well to sort of break the ice, introduce us to who is in the room. We'll be able to do that in real time on Zoom. So we're very much trying to replicate the feel of it. Of course, it would be much better if we were in person, but I think we can really get some nice work done this way.
Yeah, well, it sounds clearly you guys have thought through a plan, and I think we've all been amazed at what technology can do and how it can connect us. So I'm curious to know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think what's so fascinating about it is that actually during these 9 months, Zoom has gotten much better.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that you're about to do, the Zoom folks would have had a lot more technical problems doing 9 months ago. And the really, to me, just a comment and then a question, but the really interesting thing to me about this is going to be how in a post-COVID world, Zoom becomes an integral part of all of these kinds of public meetings, because especially for my folks, for Frank and Mary, who might not be feeling that great that night, you know, or they just don't want to go out after dark or whatever, this may provide a real ideal way for this large constituency that otherwise was kind of missing in action, especially when it was dark, because people were concerned about going out after dark, to really participate, right? So now, having said that, one question. So if I am a environmental junkie and I really want to go because I want to go talk about, you know, chapters, the environmental chapter, right? So is that an option, or is everybody there going as a general attendee, and then you are kind of randomly moving people to these various groups?
Yeah, so I think at the moment, my understanding is it's likely to be random. but there is an aspiration to be able to put people into groups of their preference. Zoom hasn't quite caught up to that yet. You can pre-assign folks to rooms, but you can't do it until after they've joined the meeting. So just depending on the number of people and just the sheer volume is going to be difficult. I will say, however, that we absolutely welcome and invite that expertise and that passion to the particular chapters. And maybe this will be a good time for me to share my screen here and take you to the master plan website. So hopefully you're seeing westboroughmasterplan.com on my screen. Yes?
Yes.
Great. So this is still the homepage for the site, and I encourage people to become familiar with it. I need to shrink a little bit here just to get below the controls. And there we go. All right, so here is a link here called Document Library. And if I open that document library, what you'll see is all of the past advertising for meetings, what is the master plan FAQs, so you can revisit all of that. Some of the historical documents, Westborough's Historic Preservation Plan from 2002, the 7-year open space plan from 2018, the Affordable Housing Analysis and Action Plan from 2020. So historical and current documents that are being used as reference points. But under draft documents, you'll see the draft issues and opportunities templates for each of the chapters. So land use, housing, economic development, natural, cultural, and historical, open space and recreation. So if anybody has a particular interest or preference to comment on any of these, we're trying to keep all of the drafts out there and available and open. And we encourage you to download them, mark them up, send them back into the planning department, and that input will absolutely be incorporated.
That's fantastic. I mean, one of the things, Lester, is, you've been doing this kind of work for a long time in the town, and everyone talks about transparency and communication and the opportunity to engage. And what you've laid out here it's fantastic, because it's easy, it's straightforward. I can understand what's on the screen, even if I don't really understand what this is all about. Like, I get that it's easily laid out and organized. So kudos to the entire group. And candidly, I've been sort of on the ideas page. I've not been into the document library. So I'm looking at this going, wow, what a great resource, even going forward. So I hope we can kind of keep this, as a historical piece going forward. Obviously the draft documents would change to be final at some point, but this is great.
Right. Arthur, did you have a comment? Sorry.
I was just going to read it. This is really great. And the notion that in anticipation of this meeting, I could go to this page and whatever I'm interested in, I can click. I can say, here's what is being thought about now, so that to the extent that I'm participating, whatever group I'm participating in, I can be saying, well, regarding transportation, this is the thing that I'm really interested in. So it's a wonderful tool. So now I just got one. I have one question. So once again, as you know, I am an outlander. I live in faraway Marlborough, right? But we share some things in common, right? A lot of your sewage goes through our river on its way to Maynard. I get stuck on the same road that you get stuck on 495 when I'm going from here to there all the time, right? We have this wonderful new open space, the Burroughs Loop Trail that is connecting people and doing these wonderful things, which leads me to that broader question. So have you folks been thinking about, as you go through this process, how you not necessarily replicate it, but how you kind of go beyond that to those issues which are inherently multi-community issues, where like your open space trails make no sense if they stop at the border. They only, right? They're not dead.
Not only do things like that not make sense, but they also, if they're not regionalized or integrated with the goals of our neighbors, we sacrifice, in fact, state level funding if we're not collaborating, right? So there are, the big question that comes out of master planning is it's great to dream and think about all these incredible things you want for your town, but how do you pay for them, right? And we're trying not to obsess on that at the moment, because that becomes the last stage of the master plan is, we're going to commit to the goals and the actions we need to take. And it will ultimately be the obligation of the community to figure out how to pay for it. But we do know through regionalization that if we exclude certain towns from our multi-use trail plans, we forfeit certain levels of state funding. So there's a very strong constant reflection on how do we regionalize the interests of Westborough with our surrounding communities, very strong in transportation, but also in recreation, in cultural and in economic development. All of these things are being considered in respect to our neighboring communities.
Right. It's just, I still remember from doing something when I was working with the Economic Development Corporation here, where I read this little study that indicated that the number of jobs in Marlborough and in Westborough combined is greater than the number of jobs in Framingham. That there is actually a much stronger total economic engine here, except that it's divided into like 3 or 4 or 5 communities,
Right. Yeah, no, there's enormous potential and importance in ensuring that this plan is not myopic in that sense, right? It has got to embrace the neighbors. So a little example here, the draft vision statement that was approved at the January 27th meeting is available right here. So if you're planning to come to the meeting, and I sure hope you are, on February 18th from 6:30 to 8:30 on Zoom, you might want to click on this link here and open the, I keep getting my controls in the way. Let's try and hide those again. You might look at the vision statement in advance of the meeting, and so that you shortcut some of the discussion that's necessary in reading it. Of course, it'll be read in your group and we will review it, but we have tried to capture in this vision statement all of the feedback that we received on the website through the polling, through the first public meeting. And it sets out what we aspire to be. And very quickly, without reading each paragraph, I'll leave that up to your viewers, but we have selected words to capture the intentions of balanced, connected, desirable and accessible, thriving, multimodal, sustainable, and trusted. And we've tried to weave this vision statement into the strategic plan of the Board of Selectmen, under which they are doing the daily, weekly, monthly work, the now work of achieving this shared vision. So that's one way that you can use the document library to prepare for that meeting.
I don't know if I'm such a geek or what, but I'm actually a little tearful and have goosebumps. I mean, this is just such amazing work being done by volunteers in our community. And I look at this and it really becomes a significant marker for this community on which to build and going forward. So kudos to everyone that has contributed to it at a committee level, but also to everyone who has logged on and participated and provided their input however they've done that. Because you're right, our people is what makes Westborough great. It's great.
Yeah, and a master plan historically has often centered on the nuts and bolts of planning, of zoning, of land use, and that sort of thing. And this committee, I think it was really prescient and expansive thinking on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board to have what is an unusually large master plan advisory committee, on which are represented not only a lot of residents and volunteers in particular areas of interest, but all of the department heads of the town that will ultimately be charged with doing a lot of this work. And the consequence is a much richer master plan into which I think for the first time in many communities that you're going to see chapters on sustainability and climate change, a chapter on public health. It's not a typical chapter to have in a master plan, but who can ignore it after the pandemic? Who can ignore it after the addiction epidemic? Who can ignore it when we're going to likely be dealing with the mental health implications of, what this pandemic has meant? So I think that in some respects we can bemoan the COVID era and the pandemic, but I'm always looking to reframe for the positive. And I think there's an awful lot of positive that has come from it and will make a much more enriched master plan for our community.
It's just amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Now, as you know, Lester, my job here, as I always say, is to provide comic relief and keep time. So I'm looking at time, and we're getting close to the end of our show. And I know that at the end, I always ask, or before the end, I always ask Shelby. It's a weekly show. One of the reasons for it is to keep people informed about stuff that's actually really, literally just coming up. So I know that, and I know this meeting is just coming up. But I want to make sure that I'm checking with Shelby to see if there's anything else she wants to talk about what's.
So just first of all, I want to thank Lester for coming on. Lester, if you want to share your screen and show folks that invitation to the meeting while I'm just kind of closing things out here. I do want to encourage folks to attend on the 18th. You can contact the planning department if you have any questions on how to join in, but that invitation that you're seeing there will show you how to do that, and we'll make sure the big invite, the colorful piece, is part of the closeout of this show. I would love to have you back, Lester, at some point to talk about how COVID has influenced, what have we learned and how has that changed, maybe kind of the framework of the master plan, but that's for another conversation. We did move our town meeting date to May 15th. That was a decision by the board last night. So I just want to make sure folks are aware of that as opposed to the traditional March meeting. But in March, we are having the chicken and poultry bylaw public meeting, It's going to be on March 4th. That's what I love about Westborough. We talk about everything from sustainability and, Mass Works grants to chicken and poultry bylaws. And it's what makes our community interesting.
I don't even want to ask with the chicken and poultry bylaw. I don't even want to ask. So
Another day.
that's great. That's all great. So Lester, thanks a million for coming back. I mean, once again, it's just, I think one of the interesting things about this, if you were talking to a bunch of the communities in your area, is this could really provide the template for that broader discussion too, that can bring a lot of people together in a way that actually could get something done. It was really something. So thank you so much, Lester. Thank you so much, Shelby. Always wonderful that you keep finding these great people and moving things along. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this. I really hope you take their advice and participating in this meeting. What a wonderful way, to get out, even though you're not getting out, and really participate in the future of your community. You're living there. You're going to be living there in the next 10 and 20 years. This is really shaping what's going on. So thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you all. And we'll see you all on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.